After 7 heartbreaking days, his incredible journey of healing revealed a truth: she was never his. Jake Thompson's world shattered the moment Lily vanished. Just a week had passed, but it felt like 7 lifetimes. Each dawn broke with the brittle sound of silence, echoing the emptiness in his heart. The factory buzzed just outside, his hands still stained with grease from long hours of labor, but he felt utterly paralyzed inside. In that tight-knit Midwestern town, where everyone knew each other's names, the disappearance of his beloved was a sensation. Did it break Jake? No, it crumbled him. Friends checked in with anxious eyes. Neighbors brought over casseroles and pies, their hands trembling not just from the weight of the food, but from the shared burden of Jake's anguish. They gathered on the front porch in the fading light, voices quiet but heavy with concern. "How is he holding up? He hasn't touched the grill in days." Their whispers mingled with the sound of crickets, creating a backdrop of sorrow that clung to the air. But even in that despair, love pulsed through the community like a heartbeat. On day 3, his best friend Dave sat beside him, cracking jokes to draw out even a faint smile, while his mother tended to him with every homemade meal she could muster. Each gesture, though small, reminded Jake of the strength that lay within the bonds of family. Yet as days turned into grueling weeks of relentless searching and sleepless nights, the flicker of hope threatened to extinguish entirely. Could it be that the love he thought was impenetrable had slipped away to an unknown rival? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Determined not to let despair suffocate him, Jake plowed through the community's noise, seeking answers. Then he stumbled upon echoes of Lily's torn existence. She had kept hidden the dreams she'd nurtured quietly, the ambitions that overshadowed their shared plans. With every revelation, he felt her presence slip further away. The factory, once a symbol of stability and pride, was now threatened by a looming closure, suffocating the very fabric of their lives. But there was one man who lingered in the corners of Jake's mind. This rival, this specter of a man who had been intertwined with Lily in secrecy, pushed Jake closer to a backlash that felt both justified and painful. What did she see in him? Jake wondered, slamming his fist against the old workbench, the air heavy with frustration. She had sought something more, something outside the life they were building together, and suddenly, in her pursuit, he realized he was left holding the perceptions of a love that had never truly been his. Community tensions brewed over economic despair, painting Jake's revelation in harsh hues. As he fought to confront the man he believed was the face of his heartache, he realized he was also fighting the shadows of his own resentment and heard a battle of love and lost expectations. The moments when laughter erupted from the front porch felt like sweet salves on a deep wound. Yet, deep down, Jake wrestled with forgiveness not just for Lily, but for himself too. Who was he if not the protector? A guardian of dreams that had drifted away like autumn leaves. With a spirit shaken but not defeated, Jake stood at a crossroads. He could chase after what was lost or begin to piece together a new version of himself, one grounded not in what could have been but in the reality of what lay ahead. A flickering ember of resolve bloomed within him. Perhaps healing didn't lie in chasing shadows but in finding light among the loyal hearts surrounding him. Still, confronted by the jagged edges of his own longing, Jake felt the weight of unanswered questions settle across his shoulders. As night fell, casting long shadows over the porch, Jake took a breath, his heart racing with uncertainty. Could he emerge from this shattered past to reclaim a future defined by love, friendship, and community? The answer loomed, bright yet blurry. What did it mean to forge a new path, and would he discover the truth that awaited him? The next morning, Jake woke with a jolt. Sunlight streamed through his bedroom window, spilling over the dust motes that danced lazily in the air. It felt like a fresh start, a chance to breathe after so many days suffocating under the weight of loss. His eyes wandered to the empty space beside him. It should have been filled with Lily's warmth, a gentle smile greeting him before the world could intrude. But it was quiet, too quiet. He swung his legs over the side of the bed and stood. The floor was cool beneath his feet, grounding as he fought a wave of despair that threatened to wash over him. This wouldn't be another day spent in the shadows of grief. Today, he would find purpose. Jake dressed quickly, slipping on jeans and a worn t-shirt that smelled faintly of laundry detergent and memories. He stared into the mirror, searching for the remnants of the man he used to be. The reflection that stared back held shadows, dark rings under his eyes, a weary expression, but there was something else, the flicker of determination ignited within him. After grabbing a quick breakfast, Jake pushed open the door to the outside world. The crisp air felt revitalizing, promising new beginnings. The small-town charm he loved still lingered around him, from the chatter of playful children down the street to the comforting sound of a distant lawnmower. Yet now, those familiar sights felt like a changing landscape, haunted by whispers of yesterday. Jake made his way to the factory. He hadn't been there much since the news had broken. As he stepped into the building, the bustle of workers felt different. There was a lingering tension that hung in the air, as though the very walls absorbed the town's collective worry. They needed a sign of hope, a reason to hold on to something larger amidst the uncertainty. "Hey, Jake." Mark, a fellow worker, called out. He approached with hesitant steps, worry etching lines on his face. "Going to be all right? We've all been worried about you, man." The sincerity in Mark's eyes struck a chord in Jake. He nodded slowly. "I'm trying to be," he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "Just need to get back to work." It was an empty act, but it brought with it the faintest flicker of purpose. Jake headed to the assembly line. As he took his position, the familiar rhythm of machinery surrounded him, a lifeblood he had once cherished. In that moment, the ebb and flow of the factory began to fill the void left by Lily. He focused intently, determined not to let his mind wander to the pain he carried. As the day wore on, snippets of conversation floated around him. Voices brimmed with concern about the town's plight as they faced potential factory closures. The weight of the community's insecurities pressed against Jake, forcing him to confront a painful truth. He realized that while he grieved Lily's absence, the town mourned the lifeblood she took with her. This shared struggle for survival became a rallying cry in his mind, a mission to rebuild not just his hopes, but the dreams of every soul connected to that factory. As the clock struck 5, he gathered with his co-workers outside the factory. They spoke in hurried voices, brainstorming ways to save their futures, families, and the fabric of their lives. Each idea sparked a little more hope, igniting the embers of unity among them. Jake felt the warmth of connection infiltrating his heart. Maybe this was the path he needed to tread. He would fight, not just for Lily's memory, but for everyone who stood with him. But as he spoke passionately with his fellow workers, something gnawed at him, a reminder of the rival lurking in the shadows of his mind. Who was he to lead when he still felt lost? The enigma of Lily's choice hovered over his shoulder like a ghost. Just then, he caught sight of a figure approaching from the distance. It was Dave, his loyal friend, but behind him walked a woman, a stranger. She seemed familiar, yet unsettling. Where had Jake seen her before? What was her connection to the past he was trying to escape? With a heart racing in uncertainty, Jake took a step forward, ready to face whatever lies ahead. But in this moment, he realized he might be standing at the edge of something far more complicated than he ever expected. What secrets would this new encounter unveil, and how could it change the course of his healing? Jake's heart pounded as he watched the woman draw closer. Her features were shrouded in the golden light of the setting sun, but there was something about her eyes, a flicker of recognition that sent a chill through him. He had to brace himself. Thoughts of Lily surged like an unwelcome tide. Dave approached first, a look of excitement mixed with nervousness writ large on his face. "Jake, this is Sarah," he said, gesturing to the woman beside him. We met at a community meeting last week. She's been advocating to save the factory too. Nice to meet you, Sarah said, extending her hand. Her voice was steady, yet a hint of vulnerability threaded through it. As Jake took her hand, an unexpected spark flared between them, leaving him momentarily speechless. Jake nodded, trying to hide his unease. You're here to save the factory? Yes, she replied, her eyes shining with determination. I heard about the potential closure, and I wanted to help. We can't let this place go. It means too much to everyone. Her passion ignited something in Jake, stirring feelings that had lain dormant for too long. A small group of co-workers gathered around, their faces reflecting a mix of skepticism and curiosity. Jake could sense their hope beginning to coalesce around Sarah. Maybe this stranger, who he wouldn't let himself trust yet, could become an ally. But shadows of doubt filled his mind. What if she pulled them down the wrong path? What if she got their hopes up only to watch them crash? A thick silence settled over the group as Sarah braved their scrutiny. Listen, she started again, her voice raising slightly, I know things seem bleak right now. But tough times often reveal the strength of a community. Together, we can make a plan, put pressure on the town council. We won't just sit back and let them pull the rug out from under us. Jake felt the weight of the moment pressing down heavily. Could he really believe in something again? Lily's absence felt like an anchor, holding him captive. Yet, seeing the hopeful gleam in everyone's eyes stirred a fight he thought he'd lost. What did you have in mind? He found himself asking, surprising himself as much as the others. Sarah outlined a series of ideas, petitions, town hall meetings, rallies. Each thought poured forth from her with fiery enthusiasm, and Jake felt every word seep into his bones. The ember of purpose within him swelled, igniting a sense of belonging he hadn't realized he craved. Soon, laughter filled the air as co-workers contributed their own ideas. They tossed names around for a possible campaign, each suggestion building off the last. The heaviness that had pressed on Jake lifted, just a little. But as this new enthusiasm unfolded, another thought nagged at him. Could he truly step forward, lead them as this new journey began? The festering fear of failure whispered insidiously, drawing him back into a bittersweet pool of loss and self-doubt. He turned to Dave, seeking reassurance. What if they all look to me? What if I can't deliver? Jake, Dave said, his tone earnest, they trust you. Just as you're trying to pick up the pieces, they are too. You don't need to have all the answers, just be yourself. With a nod, Jake took a deep breath. Maybe he could do this. Just as the conversation reached a fever pitch, Jake glanced at Sarah, catching her eye. There was a connection and understanding that spoke to the pain of shared struggle. But just as it sparked hope, an unsettling memory fluttered in and out of his mind. He needed to ask her. Have we met before? Jake ventured, curiosity lacing his words. Her expression faltered for a split second, a fleeting look that could have been fear or recognition. I don't think so, she replied, but her voice held a tremor that sent shivers down his spine. As the evening air grew chilly around them, Jake felt the weight of her words, a riddle hanging between them. What truth was she hiding? And what would it mean for him, for everyone, if their paths were tied more deeply than he anticipated? Worries loomed in every corner as he considered the implications. With the flicker of neighborhood lights now illuminating their faces, Jake realized that the shadows of the past still had a grip on the present. And there was no turning back now. As the group began making plans, he felt a collective hope rising with each word spoken, yet anxiety thundered beneath it all. Only one thing was clear, he was about to unearth connections that hadn't been fully buried, possibly changing everything he thought he'd known. But as they turned to the future, what secrets would emerge to forge a new reality? The night deepened, wrapping around the small gathering like a heavy blanket, but the air buzzed with a sense of urgency. Jake felt it in the way the group leaned in, their faces glowing with determination, and he couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope. They were all willing to fight for their future, and somehow, Sarah was at the heart of it. "So, what's the first step?" a voice called out from the crowd. It was Angela, clutching her newborn son as she balanced both exhaustion and resilience. Jake admired her spirit. "Let's start by organizing a meeting with everyone who wants to be involved," Sarah said, her voice clear and focused. "And I can contact the mayor's office about setting up a town hall. Once we've gathered our strength, we can present a united front." Jake found himself nodding along, feeling the pulse of their discussion resonate within him. The scent of night-blooming jasmine swirled around them, fresh and sweet, juxtaposing the seriousness of their mission. He glanced at Sarah, still feeling the tingle from their handshake. Was it just his imagination, or was there a deeper connection? As they chatted about logistics, Jake's mind drifted to the remnants of his previous life, Lily's laughter, their plans for the future. The ache surged in him, but he pushed it aside. Focusing on the now, he was compelled to participate, to connect with these people long before this moment. He had to understand why Sarah impacted him so deeply. Kyle, a young warehouse worker, broke his train of thought. "How can we trust her? I mean, just because she shows up doesn't mean she's not here to mess things up." Silence blanketed the group, tension rising like dough in a warm oven. Jake's heart raced, he could feel the weight of every stare. "I get where you're coming from," he said, his voice steady despite the anxiety swirling. "But what we need right now is unity. We're all in this together. If we don't trust each other, how will we find a way forward?" Jake locked eyes with Sarah as he spoke. There was that flicker from before a small fire waiting to ignite. She smiled softly, and for a moment, the conflict faded. "Thank you, Jake," Sarah said, her voice cutting through the anxiety. "I want to make sure everyone feels involved and valued. If anyone has reservations, let us talk about them. Transparency is crucial." As the group began to nod, the weight in the air shifted a bit. If she could inspire this sense of trust, maybe they could forge ahead. And yet, Jake's gut twisted. There was a personal tug there. Whispers of the past tugged at him, intertwining with the hope blooming in the present. Later, as the plans took shape, Jake found himself 3 steps away from Sarah. It was absurd how just standing near her set him on edge. He could feel his heart racing again as he approached her. "About earlier you seemed startled when I asked if we'd met. Why?" Her brow furrowed slightly, and his stomach flipped as if her response would hold the key to everything. "It's just, sometimes memories from the past hit you by surprise. I'd rather not delve too deep right now." The way she said it was cautious, careful. Almost too careful. The tension pulled tighter between them, and what had begun as a growing community project felt increasingly personal. The unraveling mystery of her words plagued Jake's thoughts. What did she mean? Jake's hands clenched tightly at his sides as he watched the others continue to discuss the campaign ideas. Could he lead them forward while grappling with his feelings for this woman, who seemed intertwined with Lily's lingering memories? As their ideas flowed, a realization washed over him. Moments from the past might overlap with this new path, but he couldn't let his fears hold him back. He would not stumble at the first hurdle. The group finally dispersed, eager but uncertain, and as Jake stepped away, a troubling thought coiled in his mind. Just how deep were Sarah's secrets? Did she know something about his past that he didn't? Jake couldn't shake the feeling that their paths had crossed for a reason. With a chill creeping up his spine, he realized the boundaries of past and present were beginning to blur. Suddenly, the wind picked up, sending a cascade of leaves swirling around them, drawing Jake from his thoughts. This journey was only beginning, but what awaited them all when the truth was revealed? He could not turn back. Not now. Tomorrow would hold more than just hope, it would demand answers. Would he be ready for what he discovered about Sarah? The next morning dawned gray and heavy, mirroring Jake's mood as he stood at the window. Raindrops pattered against the glass, each one echoing the unsteady rhythm of his heart. He had hardly slept, his mind racing with thoughts of Sarah and the strange connection that seemed to pull him closer even as it unsettled him. He took a deep breath and stepped back into reality. Today was crucial. Their plans needed to solidify, and they needed to rally together. With each decision, he could feel the weight of every person's hopes resting on his shoulders. Pulling on a worn hoodie, Jake made his way to the community center, the site of their first official gathering. The walk felt longer today, or perhaps the weight of his anticipation made it feel that way. He arrived early, the building looming ahead like a fortress of possibilities. As he entered, the scent of coffee mingled with the moist air, creating a familiar comfort. He found himself organizing the chairs, arranging them in a large circle. In that simple act, he focused on the task at hand. Yet thoughts of Sarah danced in his mind. Why did she seem so familiar? He brushed the memory aside as best he could. As people trickled in, the energy shifted. Faces he recognized, all bearing the marks of worry yet also determination, filled the space. It was a reminder that they were all in this together, fighting for their shared cause, even if the core of Jake's own battle felt intensely personal. Just as he was settling into the rhythm of small talk, Sarah arrived late, but her presence made an immediate impact. She swept in, water beading on her hair, eyes sparkling with purpose. The quiet confidence she exuded pulled at Jake, igniting a warmth in his chest. "Hey, everyone!" she called out, and silence fell over the group. "I'm so glad to see you all here." Her excitement was infectious. Jake's stomach turned slightly as he locked eyes with her, wanting to ask her about last night, about everything. Instead, he focused again on their mission. They needed to present a united front, and so he found himself offering up ideas, brainstorming with the group as they began laying out plans for the town hall meeting and how they could approach the mayor. But as conversations flowed, he kept stealing glances at Sarah. She was engaged, her hands animated as she spoke, and for the briefest moment, their eyes met. The world around them blurred, and all he could hear was the unrelenting beat of his heart. He could sense something brewing beneath the surface of their connection, a depth he couldn't quite grasp yet. As the meeting progressed, Kyle's skepticism returned. "This is great and all, but how are we going to get the mayor to listen?" "We need a real strategy," he interjected, crossing his arms. Jake's heart raced again. "We can start by showing our numbers. If we can gather people and share our stories, we'll have more power," he suggested, uncertainty creeping in. Sarah added, "And we need to be transparent about our aims. People need to feel included. That way, they'll rally even more behind us." Nodding, Jake tried to ground himself in the moment. But the nagging question about Sarah still lingered. Did she really want this? Or was there something else guiding her, some unforeseen motive? As plans solidified and excitement buzzed, Jake caught Sarah gazing out the window. Her expression was distant and contemplative. The moment felt electric, and an urge to approach her grew stronger. Taking a breath, he made his way across the circle, but just before he could speak, a loud crash echoed from outside. Everyone jolted, and concern swept through the room. What was that? Someone gasped. Jake turned to the window, anxiety shooting through him. As he peered outside, a figure rushed past in the rain. Instinctively, he felt a twist of fear, something feverish fluttering in his chest. "Is someone out there?" Sarah's voice broke through the chatter. Jake's heart raced. Whatever was happening beyond those walls felt intimately connected to him. Would it lead him to the truth he sought about Sarah? Just then, the door flung open, and a soaked stranger appeared, panting and wide-eyed. "You need to come quick. You won't believe what's happening." A chill crept up Jake's spine. What could it mean? His journey was shifting, and a part of him knew that answers were on the horizon, but would they be the answers he was prepared to face? The room fell silent, heavy with unanswered questions. Jake stood frozen, heart pounding against his ribs like a drum. The drenched stranger's presence felt like a sudden storm breaking over them, scattering the calm they had just begun to build. Who are you? Jake managed to ask, forcing the words through the tension. The stranger, a young man with wild hair and frantic eyes, took a step inside, water pooling at his feet. There's a situation outside. The creek, it's overflowing. Gasps swept through the gathered crowd. Jake's instincts kicked in. How bad is it? It's bad, the man replied, breathing heavily. People need help. And fast. Jake exchanged a quick glance with Sarah. Her brow furrowed with concern, and something in her eyes ignited a spark of determination in him. He knew they had to act, but the weight of the meeting still lingered. Okay, everyone, Jake said, raising his voice to be heard over the swell of worried murmurs. We need to split up. Some of us can go to help with the evacuation, while others can spread the word and gather supplies. Kyle nodded, shaking off his earlier doubts. I'll go with you, he said, stepping forward. I'll stay here and coordinate with anyone who needs to contact emergency services, Sarah added, already moving toward the door. Wait, Jake called, suddenly realizing the stakes. What about you? Are you sure it's safe? I'm fine, she insisted, her gaze unwavering. Just go. With a nod, he turned towards the exit, adrenaline rushing through him. Each step felt heavier, but he pushed it aside, focusing on getting to the creek. Would this be the moment they proved their strength? Would this crisis bind them together or unravel the fragile connections he felt with Sarah? As they raced outside, the sound of water rushing violently nearby hung heavy in the air. With every step, he could see the street starting to flood, rain continuing to fall in relentless sheets. The world felt chaotic, charged with energy, and Jake couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a natural disaster. Reaching the creek, the scene was shocking. Water surged wildly, a living thing threatening to overflow its banks. People were gathered at the edge, concern etched on their faces as they shouted follow-up orders, trying to pull back those who got too close. Jake! Someone yelled. It was Mr. Davis, the town's retired volunteer firefighter. We need help here. We can save the workers, but we need more hands. Let us move. Jake responded, adrenaline firing through him as he scanned the area for any sign of those in danger. Together, they split into teams, wading into the water to assist in moving people to safer ground. Jake felt the cold rush up to his knees, but fear was far from his mind. Instead, he focused on the people around him, everyone who needed him. In the distance, he saw Sarah still coordinating from a safe distance. Despite the chaos of the moment, every time their eyes locked, time seemed to stop, the noise fading away. There was something there, a connection stronger than before igniting between them. But what was it really? As they continued to work, his mind drifted back to the meeting, to the ideas they shared. This wasn't just about the creek. It was about the community. It was about trust and resilience and shared purpose. After what felt like hours, they managed to save several people, guiding them back from the rising waters. Relief washed over him, but it was short-lived. In the back of his mind, a heavier concern settled. Was this just the beginning? As the rain continued to pour, he caught sight of the soaked stranger again, standing alert and scanning the perimeter. What was he waiting for? Hey! Jake called, approaching him. What's your name? Why are you here, really? The stranger's eyes widened, and then he shifted, glancing to the side. I came to warn you. You need to know. With a start, Jake turned, dread pooling in his stomach. What more could possibly be at stake? The next moment, a loud crash echoed above them. He looked up, and his heart dropped. A tree branch, slippery and weighed down by rain, was coming down fast, heading straight for them. Everyone, watch out! He yelled, instincts kicking in as he lunged toward Sarah. Would he reach her in time? Or would this unforeseen event change everything yet again? The storm was only just beginning. Jake's heart raced as he lunged, adrenaline coursing through his veins. He reached for Sarah, fear clawing at him. Time slowed. The branch swayed, the world around them swallowed by the chaos of the storm. He barely made it to her when a deafening crack split the air, and the world erupted into blinding water and chaos. "Sarah!" he shouted as he spun, instinctively shielding her with his body. He felt the crushing weight of the branch brush against his shoulder before it crashed into the ground just a few feet behind them, sending debris flying in all directions. Mud splattered everywhere, glistening under the relentless rain. He felt the sharp sting of something hit his cheek, but he didn't have time to register it. He was more focused on Sarah, who was now frozen in place, staring at the fallen branch as if it were a ghost. "Are you all right?" he asked, turning to her. She blinked rapidly, processing the moment. I think so," she whispered, her voice trembling. Relief washed over him as he took a step back, making sure she was okay, but his gaze quickly darted around them. Panic swirled everywhere. "Let us get you to safety," he urged, grabbing her hand and pulling her away from the chaos. They moved together, weaving through the crowd of frightened faces and flailing arms. Voices shouted rapidly, some screaming for help, others trying to direct people towards safety. Every step took them deeper into the rising panic, and with each stride, Jake's sense of purpose grew. He needed to keep Sarah safe, but the pull of their community was strong. People needed them right now. Glancing over his shoulder, he caught sight of the strange man standing still, his wild hair soaked and his expression serious. "Are you coming?" Jake shouted, gesturing for him to follow. The man's eyes held a weight of knowledge, something deeper than just a warning. "Yes, right," the stranger replied, stepping forward. "There's more water coming. It won't stop until this isn't the time." Jake snapped, frustration bubbling up. "We need to help." But as soon as the words left his lips, they were drowned out by another crash. A nearby building partially collapsed under the pressure of the floodwater, echoing through the streets. "Jake!" Mr. Davis yelled, his voice strained. "We've got to help at the shelter less than a mile from here. There's a family trapped." Jake felt a jolt of urgency. "Let us go," he shouted, instinctively leading the group toward the shelter, pulling Sarah with him. She squeezed his hand, and he could sense that familiar bond between them growing even as chaos swirled around them. As they reached the shelter, the scene was chaotic but organized. Volunteers rushed to hand out blankets. Someone passed out cups of water to frightened children. Every face showed the spirit of their resilience, their humanity grasping onto hope amid despair. "My sister!" a woman cried, her voice sharp with fear. "She didn't come home. Where was she last seen?" Jake asked, stepping forward. "Near the creek," the woman exclaimed, taking a deep breath as worry shadowed her face. Without a second thought, Jake turned to Kyle, who had caught up behind them. "We have to find her. You and we know the area. We can do this." Kyle nodded, determination hardening his face. "Let us go. We won't let her down." Jake exchanged one last glance with Sarah, whose expression mirrored his own. There was fear, yes, but also unyielding resolve. "Be careful," she said, a pleading note in her voice. "We will," he assured her, hoping to calm the unease in both of them. As they sprinted back into the storm, the weight of responsibility pushed down on him. But something else pulsed within him too, a flicker of hope, a conviction that they could help. They dodged debris and braved fierce winds, each step taking them closer to the creek. The wild, rabid water was both enemy and witness to their determination, and as chaos swirled around them, something shifted within Jake. Maybe, just maybe, they could do this together. In the distance, a desperate cry rang out, a voice echoing against the roar of the storm. "Help! Over here!" Jake's heart raced. They were getting closer, but every moment counted. Could he save her and return in time? Or would this storm take everything from him? Jake's breath hitched as he pushed through the torrential rain, squinting into the darkness that surrounded him. The sound of rushing water roared in his ears, a reminder of the danger lurking just ahead. The distant cry, desperate and filled with fear, screamed louder inside his mind. It wasn't just a voice, it was a plea, and they had to find the source. "Stay close," he shouted over the screams of the wind, gripping Kyle's shoulder. They trudged through the mud that threatened to swallow them whole. Every strained step felt agonizing as the weight of uncertainty pressed heavily against his chest. "Did you hear that?" Kyle shouted back, his own boots splashing through puddles. They were nearly there, he could feel it, but the storm seemed intent on hiding the girl they were searching for. It came from the left. "Let us go." With renewed determination, they turned. Jake forced himself to suppress the dread swelling within him. He could feel Sarah's eyes on him, urging him to be brave, to fight through the chaos. The image of her face, their shared laughter, pulled him forward even as fear clawed at his heart. They had to help. Each downpour made it harder to navigate. He stumbled on uneven ground, his heart thundering as it echoed the chaos surrounding him. Flashes of bright lightning illuminated the path, but in those brief moments, he saw wreckage, trees uprooted, debris twisted, and the very earth they relied on now betrayed them. "You okay, man?" Kyle called back, clearly struggling with the elements. "Just keep moving." Jake's voice cracked under the pressure. They couldn't stop. Not now. There was no time for hesitation. Finally, they reached the edge of the creek. The water surged angrily, swirling and crashing against the banks, muddy brown and fierce. "Where are you?" Jake shouted, the words swallowed by the storm. And then he saw her clinging to a branch, her small figure bobbing helplessly in the water. The world around him fell away. His heart stopped for an instant before exploding into a frenzy of urgency. "Hang on!" Jake yelled, adrenaline coursing through his veins. "We're coming!" "Jake, it's too dangerous!" Kyle yelled, alarm flashing across his face. The violent current churned menacingly. "No! We can't let her drown!" Jake was already moving, scrambling down the muddy bank. He didn't care about the danger, all that mattered was that girl. He reached the water's edge, feeling the icy swirl slosh against his feet. "Grab my hand!" he shouted, thrusting it out toward her. Her eyes widened, and then she reached for him. Jake lunged, muscles straining as he grasped her wrist, pulling with every ounce of strength he had. The water was relentless, pulling at her and him both. Together they fought against it. "Hold on. Don't let go." He felt the panic fueling his strength, heart racing in rhythm with the fierce battle for survival. Just as he felt the current begin to give way, something tugged sharply at him from behind. A sudden wave crashed over him, and the world spun. He let out a panicked yell as the force ripped her from his grasp. "No!" His scream reverberated through the tempest, mingling with the storm. Without thinking, he plunged fully into the frigid water, hands thrashing wildly as he fought to reach her. Gasping, he scanned the maelstrom, desperately seeking her small form. And there she was, still reaching out, her terrified expression matching his own. He dove deeper, clawing his way through the dark, and just as he felt his lungs begin to burn he grasped onto her hand once again. With newfound determination, Jake kicked hard against the current, feeling sheer will pushing him forward. But as they emerged from the depths, choking on water, painfully aware of their fragile lives, he realized something fundamental: he had no idea what awaited them on land. Would the chaos still be there, or something worse? "Is she okay?" Kyle's face blurred in the rain, worry etched deeply in his features. "I don't know." Jake rasped, cradling the girl to his chest. He felt her shivering, fear echoing in her watery gaze. With every ounce of love buried deep in him, he held on to her tightly, trying to shield her from the storm, trying to shield himself from the fear that lingered like shadows. They staggered up the bank, fighting through mud, uncertainty thick in the air. Jake turned back to look at Kyle, but the distance seemed to stretch as the chaos surrounded them. A sense of impending dread settled in his stomach. Would they find safety? Would the storm take everything for him after all? Just as they reached the top of the bank, he heard something crack, a noise too familiar and filled with horror. But what had he truly saved? Behind him, a new crash rumbled ominously, stirring fear deep within his soul. Could it truly be over, or was this storm merely the beginning? The ground shook beneath them, and Jake's heart dropped like a stone. He instinctively shielded the girl, feeling her small body tremble against him. Kyle scrambled beside them, eyes wide with panic. What was that? He shouted, barely able to be heard over the storm's roar. I don't know, but we can't stay here. Jake tightened his grip around the girl and instinctively started moving, leading the way back from the creek. He felt her heartbeat, rapid and scared. It mirrored his own. Each step seemed to echo with uncertainty, the world spinning in chaos around them. Lightning struck again, illuminating a jagged path ahead. The storm felt alive, angry, as if it was fighting to keep them from moving forward. The rain continued to pour, drenching them further, turning the ground into a slick mess that threatened to swallow them. What if it collapses? Kyle called after him, a flicker of hopelessness creeping into his voice. It won't. Jake replied, forcing out a strength he barely felt. Keep moving. They needed to find shelter, somewhere safe away from the chaos that swirled around them. The sound of rushing water faded behind them, but uncertainty still loomed heavy. What would they find next? As they pressed on, Jake glanced back at the girl. Her wide eyes were full of terror, yet they also carried a flicker of hope, trust that he would keep her safe. Can you walk? Jake asked her, his voice trembling slightly. She nodded but remained silent, perhaps overwhelmed by the whirlwind of events. Stay close, okay? He reassured her, hoping it would comfort both her and himself. Just then, the cracking sound intensified, a sharp unit breaking through the downpour, and Jake turned to see a massive tree giving way to the relentless wind. Before they could even react, it splintered and fell, crashing to the ground where they had just passed. Jake! Kyle yelled, adrenaline surging in his eyes. We have to find cover now. The three of them took off, sprinting while the wind howled around them. Jake felt the weight of the girl in his arms. She felt fragile, like glass, but also a beacon that pushed him to keep moving forward. They tore through the trees, branches whipping at their faces, desperation driving them with every wild step. Finally, they spotted an old cabin, its wooden frame weather-beaten but still standing. There. Kyle pointed, desperation fueling his sprint. They rushed inside, Jake kicking the door open with urgency. It creaked outward, revealing a dim room filled with remnants of what used to be a home. Dust settled in the corners like forgotten memories. Close the door. Kyle shouted, and Jake shoved it shut just as a gust of wind howled through. They leaned against it, breathless and dripping water like sponges. Is everyone all right? Jake asked, gasping for air. The little girl looked up at him, still wide-eyed but a bit calmer now that they weren't in the open. I'm scared, she whispered, tears brimming in her eyes. Jake felt a pang in his heart, of protectiveness mixed with empathy. Me too, he admitted softly, kneeling down to her level. But we're safe here, okay? We'll wait out the storm together. He glanced over at Kyle, who was checking the room, scanning for any signs of danger. We need to make sure it's safe, he said with determination. But Jake could see the fatigue and fear lining his friend's face. Just then, the floor creaked ominously beneath them, making Jake's heart race again. Suddenly, a heavy silence fell, and his gut twisted with apprehension. What was that? The girl murmured, clutching his arm tighter. Just the storm, Jake replied, but he didn't believe it. The feeling of something being amiss lingered, an unseen weight hanging over them. He shared a glance with Kyle, and they both knew they had to be alert. With their hearts pounding and uncertainty thick in the air, they sat in a huddled silence, listening to the wind screech outside. But what awaited them next? Would the storm let them be? Or would it reveal challenges even more terrifying than the tempest brewing outside? The cabin groaned, a weary wooden sigh against the fury of the storm outside. Jake's heart echoed the unsettling rhythm of uncertainty. Here they were sheltering a frightened girl, and yet the storm's wrath continued to rage. They had escaped the creek, but the shadows of doubt loomed heavy. Are we really safe? The girl asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake could see her trembling. Was it from the cold or the fear? He knelt down, bringing himself to her eye level, trying to project light where he felt darkness. Absolutely, he replied, forcing a smile he didn't fully feel. We're going to wait it out together, and soon everything will calm down. He hoped it would be enough to soothe her. Kyle paced the room, glancing over the broken furniture and dusty floor. We need to find a way to make sure that door stays shut, he said, worry etched on his face. This storm isn't going anywhere anytime soon. As Kyle shifted furniture to block the door, the wind howled louder, but Jake focused on the girl, holding her gaze. What's your name? He asked, his tone gentle. Emily, she replied, still wide-eyed. Emily, that's a beautiful name. I'm Jake, and this is Kyle. We're going to take care of you, he said, trying to instill hope. Deep down, he could feel his own anxiety creeping back, but he pushed it aside, just for her. A thud from outside jolted them all. The cabin shook, and fear gripped Emily as she jumped, pressing closer to Jake. What was that? Just the storm, I promise, Jake whispered, wrapping an arm around her small shoulders. His heart was racing. It wasn't just the storm, he felt a new kind of urgency growing inside him. Kyle's voice broke through. He was glancing out a cracked window, his expression grave. I think I saw someone out there. They might need help. Jake's pulse quickened. Danger seemed to lie in every corner, yet they couldn't ignore someone in distress. We can't leave Emily, Kyle. What if we run into more trouble? I understand, but if we don't do something, we're part of the problem, Kyle argued. The weight of their decision hung heavily over them, the storm mirroring the turmoil in their hearts. Jake took a deep breath, the reality settling onto his shoulders like a thick blanket of doubt. Fighting the rising panic, he turned to Emily. What do you think we should do? You're part of this too. Her big, trusting eyes met his, and a flicker of strength shone through the fear. We should help them. Everybody needs help. He blinked, their shared fear transforming into determination in that instant. Okay, he said, looking at Kyle again. We'll go together, but we need to be smart. Agreed, Kyle nodded, his earlier urgency now replaced by focus. We'll move quickly and avoid the worst of it. Stay close to us, Emily, Jake instructed gently. With hearts pounding beneath the weight of looming chaos, they braced for what lay beyond the cabin door. Together, they stepped outside, the wind battering their faces as they fought against the storm's fury. Stick together. Kyle shouted over the din, and Jake felt Emily's grip tighten around his hand. They pushed forward, carefully navigating through scattered debris and fierce gusts. As they made their way across the lawn, he spotted a dark figure slumped on the ground. Jake's heart skipped as he ran forward. Are you all right? He called out, kneeling before the person. It was a young woman, bruised and breathless, her clothes tattered. The storm raged behind them, but they had found another. I can't get up, she gasped, looking at them with a mix of fear and gratitude. Help me. Jake immediately reached out, anchoring his arms beneath her and pulling her upright. Kyle moved to support her on the other side. Together they steadied her, and she leaned heavily against them. This was what their mission was about. Let us get her back to the cabin, Jake directed, glancing to Emily, who nodded with wide, trusting eyes. Once inside, They gathered around the newcomer, offering her warmth against the chill still whipping through them. "What's your name?" Jake asked, concern lacing his voice. "Laura," she croaked, her voice weak but filled with gratitude. "Thank you, I thought I was going to drown out there." "You're safe now," Kyle assured her, glancing at Jake. "We need to get you warm." Jake's mind raced, thinking of how to help in the crisis. They needed to give her water and find something to wrap her in. As Jake rummaged through the cabin's sparse belongings, he felt a sense of purpose knitting together within him. This was about more than survival, it was about community, strength, and healing. Just then, the distant sound of someone shouting carried through the storm. "It's Mr. Davis!" Emily exclaimed, darting to the door. "He's looking for us." "Stay back," Jake called, his protective instincts kicking back into gear. "We can't open this door until we know for sure what's out there." Just then, the door rattled violently as a hand slammed against it. The anxiety flooded the room in waves. "Jake!" Mr. Davis shouted, urgency lacing his voice. "We need help. The waters are rising further. I need everyone who can to assist now." "I'm here," Jake called back, his heart dropping. Time was against them, and he could feel the weight of his decision shifting. He knew he had to take a stand. "Let us go," Jake shouted, looking around the cabin. "We have to help everyone. Are you with me?" Kyle glanced at Laura, determination hardening his features. "Count me in. Let us do this." The girl Emily nodded vehemently. "We can't just stay here." With a deep breath and a heart full of resolve, they pushed open the door, flinging it wide against the storm. The wind rushed around them, fierce but not as frightening as what had become their mission. As they rushed into the whirlwind, adrenaline flowed, and a sense of unity ignited between them. Together, they picked through the wreckage, ready to face both the storm and the community's darkest challenges. The storm hadn't taken everything, it had forged something new. Hope bloomed within them, unyielding as they moved forward. "Let us bring them home," Jake said. With every step, he felt more like the person he needed to be, a guardian amidst chaos. This wasn't just a storm, it was a chance for something brighter to emerge, a future born from shared struggle, strength, and unwavering love. As the rain battered down, each heartbeat became a promise, they would find their way, together. And at the center of it all, Jake felt a bond with Emily, Kyle, Laura, and the once fractured community that stitched them back together stronger than the storm itself. This was their moment, the moment of transformation. Because love, he realized, was never truly lost. It blossomed anew. Now it was time to rise, to face whatever lay ahead with courage in their hearts. And as the skies began to clear, the true journey of healing awaited them, ready to write a new story. Don't wait any longer. You need to subscribe now to our channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that will lift your spirits and ignite your hope. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. This is the moment to lift our community's voice. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about the ending. We want to hear your thoughts on how love and community shone through in the darkest times. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let us spread the message of unity and resilience together.